David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a pen from a company whose pens are new to me, and that is Ferris Wheel Press. Well, I was aware of their pens, but this is the first time I've had the chance to take a closer look at one of their pen offerings. I'd previously reviewed some of the company's inks, and that pen I have for you today is the gold-plated version of their brush fountain pen. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the brush fountain pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Ferris Wheel Press for providing this pen for review. Ferris Wheel Press is a company based out of Canada. They're located just outside of Toronto and have been in business as a print shop for over 10 years. In late 2018, they launched their own ink line via a successful Kickstarter campaign, and since then they've expanded that ink line as well as produced several fountain pens. The pen arrives in this slender box. I'll give the company credit. They do a really good job of branding and marketing their products. Their logo, the packaging, everything looks really nice on all of their offerings. There's even a little sticker here on the end of the box indicating that the pen has a 14-karat gold-plated nib. The box slides open. Inside there is a little felt sleeve, and then here is the pen, the Ferris Wheel Press Brush. Now, there are two different versions of the brush. There is the standard model, and then there is one with a gold-plated nib, which is what I have for you today. This model is available in 6 different colors. There is the green, which is called Lord Evergreen. Then there is red carpet, persimmon, creme glacé white. Creme glacé means ice cream in French. And then there is printmaker's teal, and sandcastle clay. And the one I have here in my possession is the Lord Evergreen. The pen is inspired and designed to resemble the contoured silhouette of an artist's paintbrush. The pen is very thin, as most paintbrushes are. The cap and barrel are a lacquered copper, so it has a decent amount of weight to it for a pen so slim. Let's take a look at the top of the cap. It is rounded. The cap angles up just slightly until you reach what I will call the cap band, which is a brass nut. The brass nut is a common theme which can be found in a number of Ferris Wheel Press offerings. There is no branding on the nut. I feel it provides a unique and interesting look, as well as serving as a roll stop for this clipless design. There is a medium-sized step down to the thin barrel, which tapers down to a rounded point. The cap twists off with 2 1/4 rotations. I have noticed that at times the action of unscrewing the cap can loosen the section a bit. Often I've found myself having to tighten the section after removing the cap. But after you've removed the cap, it reveals 2 real big highlights of this pen, the nib and section. In regard to the nib, it is 14-karat gold plated and available in fine and medium. And uniquely, the branding is upside down compared to most other nibs. It has the name of the company. It has a maple leaf as a nod to the Canadian-based brand. And there isn't a breather hole on the nib, but maybe it would have been nice to incorporate a maple leaf into the breather hole, kind of like Platinum does with their heart-shaped breather hole. Just a suggestion. Also, below the maple leaf are the Roman numerals 5 and 6. This is a nod to the 2 telephone area codes where the company is located, those being 905 and 416. Little references like that are fun inclusions. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section angles up. It is made from brass, and the engraving is inspired by mechanical components of vintage printmaking equipment the company has in their studio, like the flywheel of a 1912 pearl letterpress and an Underwood typewriter. The detail of the engraving serves dual purposes. First of all, aesthetically, I feel it looks very cool. And then second of all, the engraving does a great job of helping you maintain your grip on a rather thin metal section. Now, I typically prefer much thicker sections, but I find this one to be comfortable, even for longer writing sessions. The company recommends that you do not post the cap while writing. While with the threads of the cap being brass, they can potentially damage the exterior lacquer of this pen if you do post it. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. As another little nod to the print shop origins of the company, the back of the converter is engraved with rat-tat-tat, which the company says harkens to the sound of a working print shop. I'll take their word for that. I don't believe I've ever been in a working print shop. The standard brush pen retails for $138, and this gold-plated version sells for $160. Well, I don't have both versions to compare the quality of the writing experience between the two. I will say that the nib on this gold-plated version is very pleasant. This medium nib is decently smooth and performs very nicely, as you'll see in the writing sample. I feel that the 160 is on the high end of the value proposition for me in regard to this pen, but it does bring some interesting features to the table. Thin pins are typically not my pen of choice, but I do know there are lots of folks out there who love thin pens, and that the section and nib stampings on this pen are beautiful and unique. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can check this pen out on the Ferris Wheel Press website. Thanks again, go out to the company for providing this pen for review. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Ferris Wheel Press Brush. Here it is with a Sailor 1911 large and a TWSBI VAX 700 and a Diplomat Arrow in turquoise. Then here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point, a Platinum 3776, and finally here it is with a Lamy All-Star. In regard to an uncapped comparison, you see I mentioned sometimes when you take off the nib, or take off the cap, then the section unscrews a bit. You just have to screw that a little bit back in. And here it is in comparison to the 3776 and the Sailor 1911 large and the Diplomat Arrow. Hey, I wanted to give you one more look at the section here. I just think this is really cool, especially how they've incorporated the print shop elements into here. That little semicircle here is the inside of a typewriter. And then the M here on the section is the nib size, which is a little bit unique. I haven't seen it on another brand before where they put the size of the nib on the section as opposed to the nib itself. But it looks really, really cool. And here we go with the writing sample for the Ferris Wheel Press Brush. And this is a medium stainless steel nib. And the ink that I'm using today, appropriately enough, is Ferris Wheel Press Peter Moss. This is what the ink looks like. It is a nice mossy green. This is what it looks like in comparison to Diamine Salamander, as well as Krishna Gat Green. Ferris Wheel Press recently released a line of 4 new inks, Peter Moss being one of them. The other 3 in that lineup were the Stroke of Midnight, as well as the Storied Blue, and then there was the Wonderland in Coral. I think that all of these were book themed. This is what their 38 milliliter bottle looks like. This is their smaller of the 2 bottles. Their larger bottle is a little bit more round. that I love the looks of this bottle, but there is just a couple of things about it I wish were a little bit different. One, it is very narrow. So when I'm using it, I do always have a fear of it tipping over. I have not had one tip over, but I have that fear of it happening. Also, I really love the cap on here, but the neck is rather narrow. So I do have a number of pens that won't fit in this neck. So I wish the neck was a little bit wider. But other than that, I do like the looks of the aesthetics of these bottles. Here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I find this medium nib to be very pleasant, that it's fairly smooth. It is rather stiff. As I mentioned, it is gold plated. It's not a gold nib. So it doesn't give you that same softness and flexibility that you have in a gold nib. In regard to ink flow, it's a little on the light side in regard to this pen, in regard to some reverse writing. It does very well. It's fairly smooth. And overall, I think that this gold-plated nib provides a really good writing experience. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. So there we have the Ferris Wheel Press Brush. I think it's an interesting addition and an interesting pen. Especially if you like thinner pens, then it's something that you should definitely take a closer look at. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.